Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are committed to helping families grow closer by reading more together. We have a wonderful guest for you today. Her name is Dr. Regine Moradian. She is here to celebrate Frankie and the Worry Bees. Before we invite Dr. Jean into the studio, we want to invite you to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. We're especially interested in having parents and educators, whether they're elementary school educators, middle school educators, daycare providers, to go in and check out our live events page. We are going to be hosting virtual literacy fairs for individual schools, churches, daycare programs, after-school programs. We want to partner with you to bring a great virtual literacy fair to your community. You may remember that we had the Reading in the New Year event. It was a really successful event. Hundreds of people attended that event. They heard stories read aloud. They saw magical performances. They were able to download some fantastic offline fun. We want to bring that to your community. That's right, your community. Check it out today. Go to our website, please, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the link for live events. Joining us on the line right now from Los Angeles in California. She is the author of a very important series of picture books. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Regine Moradian. Dr. Regine, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really, really well, and I'm really excited to speak to you about Frankie and the Worry Bees and the rest of the books that will be coming out in this series. Why don't you give us an introduction and let us know who Frankie is?
Yeah, so Frankie is my first book that I wrote, actually inspired out of quarantine. I came up with the idea back in March. It was never a plan. I'm always starting like this because it was never a plan to write a children's book, and just the spontaneity of it has been incredible and amazing. So back in March when quarantine hit and I had to really revert to telehealth and online distance learning, it was really difficult for children to connect online. And through the use of illustrations and visual imagery, Frankie was born. So Frankie, in my book, is a little boy who learns how to express his worries, his anxieties, his concerns, and how they present in his life. And they present in his life like in most children. That's what I was trying to depict at school, at home, with friends. And he really takes us through his worry journey and how they show up. And it also role models for parents how they can start the communication with their children about this topic and kind of normalizing it. And that's what I really wanted to do, is normalize anxiety and worry and take away the mental health stigma and raise awareness. Because a lot of kids, especially now since Zoom, and I mean, not just Zoom because there's so many different virtual platforms, have been feeling really worried and not knowing what's next and what's coming. So Frankie really gives that opportunity to share and open up the conversation.
Who would have thought back in March of 2020 that the country would be in the world would be in various stages of lockdown in quarantine for a year?
Yes.
It's really hard to believe.
Yes, it's so interesting you mentioned that because I was just thinking about this a few days ago, just thinking about how long it's already been. And definitely we didn't think it would last this long. I certainly was thinking, we would be in this probably for a few months and then we'll be back in school in August. I'm also a mom of 3, so doing Zoom. I mean, I'm really seeing my kids go through it. I'm teacher by day. I always say in the morning, helping them, supporting them, and then working full time, and then also putting some time in writing. So we never thought, absolutely, I agree with that. And again, we don't know what the future holds. We're really being hopeful that this gets resolved soon, and we will be back to somewhat normal, right?
I agree on everything. We don't know what the future holds. We hope we can go back to whatever normal is going to be soon. But we don't have really any idea of what the lasting effects of this experience is going to be. And I think that your book and the books that will be coming out are important, because I had a conversation not long ago with some authors, and I suggested that they take up a project and write a short story about a teenager dealing with the pandemic. And the reaction was, we're so sick and tired of the pandemic. It's going to be over soon. This isn't going to be relevant. I strongly disagree. I think that we are going to be dealing with, even after we get back to whatever normal is going to be, we're going to be dealing with the effects of this lockdown and pandemic for many years to come, especially with our young people. Am I off base in thinking that?
No, I completely agree with that statement, because, wow, I mean, we're just so aligned in that, because I was just talking to a couple colleagues yesterday who are in the medical, they're physicians, and I was just asking that same question and making that statement and saying, when we're all back, let's just re-envision everyone's back to school and back at work. You have 8 months of training the mind into saying, stay away from each other, stay 6 feet away, wear a mask, don't touch this, don't touch that, be cautious. I mean, think about it like your brain is on alarm, constant alarm rate. And all of a sudden now you have to go back to how things were, where we were pretty relaxed and we weren't really thinking about germs. We weren't really thinking about getting sick. And I'm a big advocate, just think about prior pandemic and really letting your kids get dirty, play in the dirt. I mean, that's just how I always was. And not really preoccupied so much about germs and et cetera. If something fell on the floor, 6-second rule. I mean, you have to be able to immune yourself somewhat, right? So now I think children right now, and will be after this, definitely on this alert zone. I'm going to mention something. Think about back in August when we were thinking that children were going back. And I had a very, very different view than I have right now. Back then in August, I thought, well, what's going to be best? Would it be best for the children to go back, for my kids especially, to go back and to wear a mask and to be told every 5 minutes to stay away from each other, to keep their distance, to not play with their friends? I was really worried about the mental health ramifications and what that would cause to my child, and not only my child, but other parents were also thinking the same thing. And so had they been allowed back in August, I said, no, I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, if they can't go back in a normal way, it's not even worth it. Because I was thinking about the mental health piece. Then as December approached, like right now, I'm noticing something else. I'm noticing how, and not just till December, I want to say these last 3 months since the fall started, how lonely children are feeling, socially isolated, withdrawn, missing their friends. Honestly, they really got used to the mask wearing. So in hindsight, I think it's very important for them to return back to normal and have something of normal, even if that means going back with masks. But I definitely think that we are going to see a lot more anxiety, most likely, hypochondriac type behaviors where kids are going to be it's going to be instinctual. It reminds me a lot of when soldiers go into battle and the training that they have to go through right before battle, and then they're in that battle for 6 months, and then they come back to normal life and are kind of stuck in this post-traumatic stress type of feeling where they're just always on guard, always alert, ready to have their gun going, it is going to be a little bit like that. I'm foreseeing that. Because, I mean, think about it, even when you go on the street right now, have you noticed yourself keeping your distance from others and getting slightly panicky if somebody comes too close to you? I certainly have, right?
Yeah.
So it's very, very natural. Or someone making a comment at you where you're too close, you need to move away. Oh, you're not wearing your mask, put your mask on. So I think as a country, we are definitely, as humans, in the world, I don't think it's just in the United States, it's all over the world, everyone is really going through these emotions. So can they be undone? Of course. I think that with normalcy and the vaccine and people letting their guard down and slowly returning, we're going to get to somewhat of normal. But that doesn't mean that the children and even adults are going to be suffering with some form of, mental health effect, or I call it the mental health aftermath of what's going to happen. Yes.
Yeah, so important. And I'm really happy that we have authors like you that are writing books that are great ways for families to start having conversations about mental health. I grew up, many decades ago, and we didn't have conversations. Didn't have conversations about a lot of illnesses, and we certainly didn't have conversations about mental illness, even when somebody in the family was suffering from mental illness, even if that meant that the person was hospitalized. It was just like, oh yeah, he's away. He'll be back later. But let's move on. No comment about it. You're the expert here. Why is it so important for us to be able to have this conversation with our kids?
Yes, and that's really the premise of Frankie, is to really normalize that. Even when people pick up the book, oh, my kid doesn't really have any worries. I feel that a lot of children, all children, I mean, just as a human instinct, are all worried about something. And, it really starts from there, is when we are open as parents in communicating what those worries are and really checking in on them and looking at what the symptoms look like. Or, I look at really simple things from, are they biting their nails? Are they complaining of any stomach aches? Is there any bullying happening at school, or even now that we're on Zoom, online? Are they withdrawn? Are they not wanting to do the things they used to like to do? So there's a lot of signs that we can pick up on as parents. And that I'm really big on also being a present parent. And a present parent is being conscious of what's happening, right? Being aware and checking in. And that's what Frankie really shows throughout the book, is that he can go to his parents at any time. Of course, that's very ideal, but we really want to showcase when we as parents are open and communicating, how children do gravitate towards us and sharing how they feel. Because when kids don't share, either A, they're just closed off and introverts by nature and just don't want to share their emotions. So parents have to work a little harder in connecting and checking and constantly letting themselves know that, hey, Frankie, for example, I'm here when you're ready to talk. I noticed this, I'm here. And that really gives the message to the kid, like, wow, mom is present or dad is present and he really wants to talk to me. And then you have kids who are very extroverted, like Frankie is, and who really needs that outlet to talk and share. And I wanted to show how, the worry or the anxiety can really pop up in so many different arenas, right? So you have at home, he's feeling worried about certain things. And then you have at school, he's worried about not being smart enough, not knowing the answer. So he's kind of scared of raising his hand, scared that other people are going to make fun of him if he answers in the wrong way. So again, we're dealing also with self-confidence. And these are things that he expresses, but again, as a child, it's so hard to express emotion, and you have to be taught how to express emotion. And certainly, I agree with you, times have changed. I mean, even from my time growing up, we're talking a lot of change has occurred with how parents do communicate with us. And now I feel it's more open. I'm seeing such an increase in mental health awareness, parents wanting to know what's going on, being more involved, more accepting even of the work that I'm doing. And I think that's what's really beautiful, and that's what I wanted to showcase through this story and all the other ones that are coming through, is how do we do that? Because that's the main question I often get as a clinician is parents want to know, well, how do I start that conversation? How? And that's what I wanted to show through Frankie. When the during quarantine and over Zoom, when I was using, it really started with just a stick figure, I used an incredible illustrator, Timna Green, and she really brought my story to life. It was really just about kids, a simple exercise, writing down what they were worried about. Now, you can have a worry about a friend, you could have a worry about a sport, you could have a worry about going through a certain surgery, you could have a worry about so many things. And it is about just writing down what those things are, and that's processing it and writing it down and letting it out, not keeping it in. And then the other side of the bubble represented the positives, all the antonyms of that. I will go through that. I will be successful. I can do that. And when I noticed that kids were repeating the positives, they were coming back telling me they were feeling better. They said how this worked, how seeing it and writing it down was so helpful. And that to me is when I knew I had to put it into a story because it was working. And I love bees. I know I'm showcasing the bees as the negatives, but the bees to me represent like just that buzzing sound and noise that you really can't get out of your mind. And those are kind of like the negative thoughts that we all have, right? Even as adults.
Boy, that's true. And it seems like so many of us, we can hear 1,000 positives in a day, but that one negative, that one, worrying thought can be buzzing around inside our head and to the point where we're not able to focus on anything positive.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the power, right? Even in the book is for you to be able to realize that those negative thoughts, acknowledge them. It's not about dismissing them and saying, oh, everything's perfect, I'm not going to pay attention. And that's the whole notion. I don't know if you've heard of toxic positivity. So imagine you're at a party or at an event, right? And you walk in as an adult, right? So you walk in towards a friend and you tell the friend, oh, how are you? And the friend tells you, how are you? And you say, oh my gosh, I had such a rough day today. Oh, I'm sorry I was late. And then the friend tells you, I don't want to hear about that. I want to stay positive. I'm really working on staying positive. So that's an example of toxic positivity, right? Because what that person really wants to do at that moment is you ask them, how are you? Mm-hmm. And they're telling you how they are, right? And they're met with that comment. And so it kind of puts them off. And that alone can prevent them from sharing with anyone going forward because they'll think that, oh, if I really say how I am, I'm going to be met with resistance. And that's why it's really important to talk about it and just be able to go through it and not ruminate over it and then let it go, right? And for children especially, to really teach them, because this is the core, this is when all the learning happens in childhood, is to teach them that nothing stays forever. Look, even COVID and what we're going through, this is not going to last forever. We all know that. When, we don't know, but if we can tell ourselves that this will be over, right, soon, hopefully, and this is not going to be here forever, and we're still looking forward to good things and positive things coming up, that can be helpful for us to move on with our day and move on with emotion and focus on the now.
Yeah. As you were speaking and as I was looking back on, why it was that people didn't talk about mental health when I was young and how things have changed, I'm thinking maybe one of the reasons people were afraid to have these conversations is that it was almost as if, can somebody get better? There's this fear that, if somebody has breaks an arm, yeah, you put a cast on it and it's going to heal and it's going to get better. But I think for a lot of folks, the idea that, oh, this person's mental health is broken, can it ever get better? Does this ever heal? It sounds like the answer to that is absolutely. There's lots of ways that we can help our kids heal and grow.
Yes, absolutely. And that's all through the coaching, the talk therapy, or even starting with the book or any type of books. There's many, many books out there and activity books, and starting those conversations. I think that's what's crucial. And I've been in practice over 15 years, and I've definitely, always see some form of progress. And I think that's what's important. And, even the way I practice, or even using the book, as I tell people, imagine like I'm a personal trainer, right? And you have a goal in mind. You want me to prep you for that marathon that you have in September. Well, the only way you will make it to that marathon or get to your goal is show up here every week and then do the exercises I suggest. And we're working together as a team, and then you're doing everything that you need to do on your end. So it's a 50-50 relationship, right? And even with therapy or coaching or whatever it is that, the mental health provider is providing, it's really important that there is that relationship exchange to see progress. That's just me personally how I practice, and I've seen tremendous progress when kids are held accountable, or even think about in school. If you want to succeed in that class and you got an F right now in that math class, and now your goal is to get an A. How are you going to get that A? Well, you have to think about how you got the F. What did you not do, or what did you do to get the F? And a lot of kids will say something like, well, I didn't study hard enough, or I didn't turn in my assignments, or I didn't do this, I didn't do that. So even making a list, again, like the Frankie suggestion, is writing down all the things you didn't do. So I didn't turn in my homework. I didn't work hard enough. I was on the computer while I was studying. They'll make a list of all the things that they were not doing and that they think in their mind impeded them. Well, while you're writing things down in that manner, that really encourages you to really look at what happened and what went wrong so that you can make a change to that. And I think that applies to anything in life. And that's really what I try to teach here to help improve how their thinking process, so that eventually, they turn from paper to mental, to the mind, and they don't even have to write it down anymore. It just happens naturally.
Mm-hmm. This is really, really exciting. Now, we mentioned that Frankie and the Worry Bees is available now. You have another book that is just about ready to be released. Tell us just a sneak peek at that new book.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for this one. I decided to write a series and to really showcase Frankie's journey, but also to showcase what a lot of kids are going through. So the next one is called Frankie and His Homeschool Adventures. Very timely right now with homeschooling. It's interesting how you mentioned about the pandemic and people wanting to write pandemic books. I had the same feeling or concern about the homeschool book. Well, we're going to be out of this. It won't be relevant. But I really think that we are possibly also going to see a shift in parents doing homeschool, even when things go back to somewhat normal. I think parents are going to start making that decision of, well, you know what, this really worked for us. We're just going to go to homeschool. Then you'll have another part, you'll have other parents saying, no, we're just going to go back to school. So I thought it was really important to showcase change here. And one thing that's important with kids that I wanted to really show through Frankie and His Homeschool Adventures, his dad, really little quick sneak peek, is telling the family that that he got a new job and they have to move. And due to that move, Frankie has to do homeschool, but nothing really changes much in his life. He's still at the same school, but it's kind of like a Zoom or distance learning type of setup. And I wanted to show how parents can talk about change, because change can happen in any way in a child's life. It could be a job. It could be moving schools. It could be anything. and really teaching parents on how to have that conversation and helping kids seeing that, well, change can be good for you. Because if you think about it in our adult life, if a child grows up with everything so constant and there's never any change, and then now all of a sudden they have to go off to college, well, that's a change. Meeting new friends is a change. And now you have to go get a job. And let's say that job doesn't work out and you have to go find another job. So how are they going to build that resilience and stamina if they're scared of change? So I wanted to show how change can be very healthy. How do we create that conversation, and really showcasing all and helping Frankie see all the positives that can come out of homeschooling, such as he's going to have less stress. He's going to have more time to spend with his friends. He's going to have time now to do the things that he's always wanted to do. And honestly, I really feel that now with this quarantine, we have been able to do that. I mean, one of the positives for me for 2020 is I was able to have time and sit and write. And I want to say the only reason why I had time to do this is because I wasn't driving everywhere, driving my kids. I have 3 children. And I used to be very, very busy. From 3 o'clock on, I was like an Uber driver, driving them to this activity, that activity, projects, etc. So I wanted to really show how change is so healthy and, can really be seen in a positive way.
Yeah. Well, this is exciting. I know people are going to want to know where they can go online to make sure that they're first to know when the new books are coming out, and also to get to know more about you, your books, and your practice.
Yeah, so they can definitely visit my website. There's a lot of information there. It's www.Regine, R-E-G-I-N-E, Mouradian, M as in Mary, U-R-A-D as in David, I-A-N.com. They can also visit my Instagram page where I have a wealth of information, and it's Dr. Regine Mouradian. And the book can also be purchased on my website. I have a book section, and also on Amazon. So Frankie and the Worry Bees is available right now on Amazon. Frankie and his Homeschool Adventures will also be available there. And Frankie is being translated right now in Armenian. It's going to be available in French soon, and also I'm looking into translating it into Spanish. So I'm going to have those languages available as well.
That is wonderful. We've had a really fun time and really informative time speaking to the author of Frankie and the Worry Bees, Dr. Regine Mouradian. Dr. Regine, thanks so much for being on the show. We hope you'll come back and talk about your other books in the future.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Jeff Williams. He is the author, maybe he's the zookeeper, of the Odd Zoo. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Hey, we would love for you to connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Jedley Magic on Twitter, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram. Our social media following is growing and growing. We're very, very active on all of those 3 platforms. We would love for you to join us. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to thank our guest, Dr. Regine Mouradian. Please be sure to check out Frankie and the Worry Bees. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio. Most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.